Her Journey to Healing, Reaching Women with a Desperate Cry is an 8-week Zoom seminar in which Kamala and Winston help women to start living their best life by rediscovering the image of God in their life. Kamala, a licensed marriage and family therapist, joins her husband of 16 years, an ordained pastor, to marry the clinical and the spiritual. You will begin living your best life filled with love, joy, and peace. Register at kwministries.net for this life-changing seminar.
We in the therapy world like to feel like we know a lot of stuff, right? And so we talk about all kinds of different concepts, and we've done it all along the way. But nothing that we talk about is new as it relates to the Word of God. Here we are talking about how God is coming to get us, how we get to be now physically, not just mentally, a part of something.
Yes, Lord.
And so this was a concept that Maslow talked about a long time ago, love and belonging. He had this great hierarchy of needs, and if you've got safety and security, you've got shelter, you've got all of those things, then once you have that secure foundation, then you can focus on love and belonging. But here it is that God is saying you already belong. You don't have to worry about love and belonging in the way that Maslow talked about it. But the interesting thing is, just in the same way that Maslow identified that love and belonging is something that we need to thrive as human beings, here's where we're saying to you that, yeah, we agree. We do need love and belonging to thrive as human beings. We do need love and belonging to be able to experience care and compassion and empathy and having a place in the world. We do need love and belonging to be part of community. And yes, we're
in the kingdom of God. evening. Good Monday night. And so you are live with K.
W?
Oh, Jay's.
Jay isn't here.
He is, but guess what? He ain't missing us. He's on a cruise.
He sure enough is.
With his boo thing. And they are having a blast in the middle of the ocean. Good for him. I'm here with you. Yes, that's a good thing.
That's
too.
what you're celebrating, right?
Being here with you?
Yes.
While Jimmy's on a cruise?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
It's Monday night.
Yes, of course.
What
We're
are
celebrating.
We're celebrating. What are you celebrating today, Boogs?
Oh, man. Life, health, strength, my family, you name it. I have a lot to be grateful for. I've been thinking about what to say tonight when you ask the question of what am I, thankful for? What am I grateful for? And it prompted me to have the thought that the more you focus on the things that you're grateful for, the more you'll find.
The more you focus on the things you're grateful for is the more you will find.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. The more you focus on the things, because that's what you will look for.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you will look for.
Absolutely.
If you're always looking for something negative,
then
guess
you
what?
will find.
You're going to find something negative. You're going to find something negative. I like that.
So what are you celebrating today?
So I'm celebrating, we are not young anymore, right?
Correct.
Do you agree with that? And we had our first doctor's visit. Well, our first joint doctor's visit today. And it wasn't as scary as I thought it was going to be.
You thought it was going to be scary?
I did. I have a good poker face, don't I?
I'm celebrating with you.
Thank you. I don't like doctors, you all. And so I thought today was going to be, so we had our first joint doctor's visit. It was quite a while since we've left. Was it Florida?
It's been a while.
And
too long. We don't advise it.
Right. So what I wanted to say was, listen, find yourself a doctor if you don't have one. All of them, mental health, family care, if you're a woman, gyno, if you're a man, whoever that is, and find yourself
all the physical stuff.
All the physical stuff.
And
take care of you.
Yeah.
Happy Monday night.
Yeah.
What are we doing here on a Monday night?
Before you move on to that,
I'm sorry.
though, you said take care of you, prompted the thought, self-care. We talk about that a lot. And self-care is not just this fad phrase that we use to describe bubble baths and, going to the spa. And those things are great. But self-care also includes doing things like taking care of your health.
Right. So let's do that and take care of our health. And don't be scared to go to the doctor.
Correct.
All right? Everything will be fine. And if everything's not fine, you want to go so you can fix it.
That's right.
All right. So what are we doing here on a Monday night?
Guys, if you're watching, we want to hear in the comments what you're celebrating today.
What are you celebrating?
Share with us. So guys, listen. While you're sharing your celebratory facts for this joyous Monday, how about I remind you that there's a place that you can go to find some more joy.
Yes.
That place is www.kwministries.net/shop.
Yes.
Tiffany celebrating life. I love it. So find your joy over on kwministries.net/shop. I promise you there is something joyous in the store waiting just for you. Maybe it's not waiting for you. Maybe it's waiting for somebody in your life that you're going to see and you're going to go, oh my gosh, I know exactly the person that this is going to be for.
I wonder if Anniken's going to do her Christmas book again. I keep saying that every week because I'm hoping.
Are you trying to prompt her?
I'm trying to prompt her to put it back in there. But there's also another book that we need to promote. Well, I need to call her. Remember Alicia Trusty Jones, and her Christmas, and I think Pastor Jones's nativity book, coloring book, would be such a treat in times like these.
Yes.
So you could head over to yes. Come on, let's look it up right now. You could head over to Amazon and see if she has any. Not Andrea, Alicia. See if she has any. But that was something last year. That was really, really good treat. All right. Well, I'm excited about our conversation tonight. I was trying to hope that our other guests would jump on while we talked a little bit, but he'll join us whenever he's able to. So let's introduce our guests for tonight. I am actually always excited when I have Pastor Hall on, because I've actually known, full disclosure, I've known Pastor Hall. Man, we're old, for over 25 years. You realize that, right? It's 25 years.
Yeah, that's a long time.
That's a long time. That's half of a century, dude.
We won't tell nobody. Quarter.
Quarter of a yeah, quarter of a century.
Mhm.
50s half. And John is I didn't know him to be a sage, but I've just come to just respect his wisdom, his thoughtfulness on things. And I tried calling you the Wednesday night after the election. You didn't answer the phone. But I've known him to gotten to know John to be so wise, and I'm really, really looking for. We haven't spoken except to ask. We haven't spoken just through messages to ask him to be on here. He's a husband. He's a father. 2 or 3, John. 2 children.
I have 4 kids.
4 children.
4 children.
4, and you were talking about us last time. Okay, super parents. Okay, he's a social worker. He loves people.
Yes.
And as we talk tonight, you're gonna hear that come out of his care for the least of these. Not only that, but John is he and his family, he and his mom, sister are still going through a grieving process. Lost his dad recently, and I didn't realize this. Watching the memorial and watching the different things that Allegheny East put up and his sister put up, I realized, wait a minute, your dad was a rock star. Your dad was a serious evangelist and just a well-accomplished person. We're excited to have you on tonight. I don't know if you're excited about the conversation we're going to have.
Oh, absolutely.
Or the reasons for it, but we're excited to have you on.
Definitely.
Here's where, well, John, what are you celebrating tonight? Let's start there.
What I'm celebrating, being on with you guys today. It is you guys are definitely love energy, and I love the consistency and the ministry that you guys both share. So I'm celebrating being and having this conversation with you guys this evening.
Super awesome. And we're happy we're excited. Yes. We're really, really, really excited to have this conversation with you. Let me catch you up to speed, John, because this is actually the second part of the conversation. Okay. Last week it was just me, Kamala, and Pastor Gibson, Jimmy Gibson, and we intentionally didn't have any guests. We just wanted to throw the stuff around amongst ourselves. And where we left is Kamala said, after we talked about the anger, the angst, all the different emotions that surrounded, and celebration for some people, that surrounded the loss of that election. And we talked about how people responded. We talked about the Christians' response. We talked about how our faith was supposed to was supposed to inform our response. We had a lot of dialogue around that. And the point that Kamala brought out, which was, I thought, crucial, and which was where I would like to pick up this evening, is where, and if you want to visit any of that back stuff, of course, you're welcome to it, is she said that one of the part of healing from this loss for those that are hurting is that they had a responsibility to sit with their emotion to decide what it is that they're really feeling.
Right.
They had a
Absolutely.
responsibility to sit with their emotion to decide what it is that they're really feeling. Do you think that's a good place to start, or do you want to go back some?
No, that's actually a great place to start. I think one of the things where you feel like you're being traumatized or you're being wounded is this powerlessness. And so one of the things that a lot of individuals who felt as though that they've rallied, they've advocated, I think speaking to individuals, they feel as though you should see what I'm seeing, right? How can you elect somebody who's using such vitriolic language? I know individuals are saying, how can the Latino community vote against itself? How can Black men vote against themselves by voting in a person who is racist and misogynistic and saying stuff like individuals eat cats and dogs, and acknowledging that it was something that they made up as a result of infuriating and rallying their base. I think the thing that you have to do is when you're in a place of woundedness, is you have to take back your power. Because when you're in a place of woundedness, you feel like you're powerless. And so I think in this aspect, the question is, how can you take back your power in an election where you feel as though people are making decisions that you're not a part of, or that your voice does not matter? And I think part of that is speaking out and speaking up, advocating, and being a voice of change within your community. So I think it's a very good place to start.
What does that even look like? I've acknowledged my woundedness, and now I want to look towards what is accessible for me to do. What does that even look like? Where do I even begin?
So Kamala, let me ask you this, and if I'm, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Can we back up before we get there?
Yeah.
Could you and John go back and forth in giving voice, or not voice, but in naming some of those emotions that people could really be feeling? You see what I'm saying? Because what we're saying is, once you've acknowledged that, then what does that look like to move from there?
Yeah.
But do they have the language? That's what I want to say. Can we give some language to the kind of emotions that people may be feeling?
Well, how about we start with us here as this group just talking? What were some of the emotions that we experienced? Because people can relate to that.
Okay.
Right. So I can start I felt, because I've experienced and I know how America votes, right? I live in Pennsylvania, and you know that Tuesday night.
No, you did it. It's you.
Everybody was waiting for Pennsylvania to figure out how Pennsylvania was going to vote.
I was watching Erie, man.
Right. It was, but what I was experiencing is throughout, as I was driving through various counties outside of Philadelphia, and even inside Philadelphia, there were many signs in terms of Trump supporters. There were a lot of individuals. And so because I've experienced the trauma of America and being Black in America, I know to embrace what it's going to come. And I know two aspects of America, right? It's always going to be racist. It's always going to be misogynistic. And so you combine a Black woman running for president of the United States. I leading up to the election, my gut was bracing for the blow for them to do what they were going to do. And so for me, it was, when you're in this trauma response, you kind of brace for the impact. And so my feeling is the bracing, so I won't be disappointed for the reaction and the reality of what was coming up.
There's almost
think-
like tension
Right.
that kind of inherently
I
exists.
think that's what happened with Ari. I think that was what. All right, for me, it was a. I wasn't shocked. I was disappointed. That's how I was disappointed. I was. Man, maybe I'm the one that was supposed to sit with this thing. I was disappointed. I know that.
Mhm.
I was angry, but not like I was in 2016.
Mhm.
Not like right, nothing like 2016. But I wasn't shocked. So I forgot how I was supposed to put it. I wasn't shocked, but I was disappointed. That's the language I'm gonna use for me.
I think I would. Good.
So that's a good feeling word.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I kind of share that feeling word, and I'm not piggybacking on it because my feelings of disappointment were aligned with specific things.
Right.
So, like, my disappointment was really women? Like, we just voted against ourselves? Like, we're gonna go all the way back? So, so that's where it was disappointing for me. But I think I also experienced just this kind of numbness
Is good.
to the process. We talked about this last week. Just the night it was going on, I just didn't even want to see it. Like, I didn't want to see it unfold.
Yeah.
Right.
We
turned it off early. We watched Erie because they said that how Erie goes is how the state goes, and that was just my little town, and and so when I saw that left us, I was like, I'm out. I'm not torturing myself no more. But what about anger? Because some people are genuinely angry. What about that for a language? What's causing the anger, do you all think? Can you all help people walk through the anger that they're feeling?
So I think part of that anger is, I think, recognizing that some people will always get away with stuff that you could never even imagine getting away with.
Yeah.
And so the constant, a person's getting convicted of something, they're getting tried from something, and the Supreme Court overturns it, and everybody's just waiting for the election to see how they're going to happen. And then the election comes, and then less than a week later, the special prosecutor drops everything, and now everything that this person ever did can get away with it. And so part of the anger is angry that, number one, there is actually something that I can see, that white privilege does have privilege. And me as an African American, I don't have that privilege, nor do I give that permission to even make mistakes, because people are absolutely going to, they're going to judge me more harshly. So there's an anger as a Black man in living in America where white people seem to get away with everything, and as a Black man, I don't. And I don't want to. Right? I don't even want to get away with everything.
Right. I just thought that I'll get away.
But I don't get the grace that other people in other cultures get. And so there's an anger within me as a Black man. Yeah.
Right.
I understand that.
Right.
So squeaky wheel. So for the viewers who maybe hear that but don't get that, what do we say to them? They hear that, but they don't get it.
Right. So the sympathy, they could be sympathetic, right? If you can't be empathetic, then you at least be sympathetic. Hear somebody out, right? But I don't see, if you're going to be a Black person in America, that you don't get that, though. Right? That would be challenging. Well, that's not true. Some Black people vote for it.
Correct.
I think one of the things that we have to do better as a people group is listen to somebody else's feelings and not feel like we have to understand their feelings in order to support their feelings. You don't have to, it doesn't have to make sense to you in order for you to support the feelings of somebody else. You're hearing their voice and sitting in their voice and asking them, how can I support you in your voice? I think that's where loving individual comes from, because you don't have to, it doesn't have to make sense to you. It makes sense to them.
Right.
And so sitting with their anger and saying, look, I hear your anger. Like, how can I support you and stand by you in your anger?
That's good. That's real good. That's real good. All right. What are some other feelings? Now, I want to point out this one. So a lot of people are angry. A lot of people are feeling different things. Anxiety, anxious. A lot of people are anxious. He's going to deport 11 million people. He's going to this. Where is that anxiety coming from? And how do we help to? How are we supportive in that?
I would love to hear John's answer to this one. Where is this anxiety coming from?
Where is it coming? It's coming from a real place. I mean, he's being honest. He's being truthful. He's saying what he's going to do, and there's a good group of individuals who are going to do that. And so, even individuals who
can America deport 11 million people? Can they afford to deport 11 million people?
White fragility. White fragility will find the money to support white fragility. And the reality
that would wreck this economy. Like there wouldn't be an economy left.
It would, but you have to understand they're not. When you are in a place of fear, and I want to give context to the other side as well,
right?
Because I've had conversations with individuals who are excited,
right,
that Donald Trump was voted in, and who felt really like after 2020 occurred, and where they felt that the election was really stolen. I want to kind of hello.
We're here. Sorry.
Okay. I'm like, oh, y'all kicked me out for that.
I think we got kicked out. I think we got kicked out.
Oh, but I think I think the reality is there are other individuals on the other side who felt hurt. They felt angry. They felt disappointed. And I think there's another side to this, right? And so for them, they feel empowered by the fact now that their voice is being heard, and they're going to the distance of like, I will even vote against my own self-interest to support
my side,
my side, and my anger and my hurt and my disappointment. And so even though I can't cognitively understand how this is going to affect me in the future, I'm going to accept the fact that, okay, I'm going to temporarily sacrifice and whatever. I'm not even going to realize that I might not have my tomatoes tomorrow, right? Or my grocery prices might go up, or I might not have, and I'm being stereotypical or generalizing, because there are individuals who are undocumented who do more than these things.
Right.
But we kind of narrow it down to picking out strawberries and cleaning people's homes. So I'm generalizing it by saying that, but I think what individuals do is they're willing to accept the temporary hardship for the greater good, where they think it's going to be a greater good.
What they think is reality. Greater good.
Right. And so I think that's where people are going to vote against their self-interest, even in terms of women, right? I voting against my body and having somebody tell me what I do with my body. There was a big percentage of white women who voted for Donald Trump who support his rhetoric, because for some strange reason, they feel like it's going to benefit them in the end. So I think that's the unfortunate reality of which we're in.
So how do we help with this anxiety that people are feeling?
Well, so I have a theory about this. So,
Mhm.
as it relates to the anxiety, dealing with the anxiety, first of all, because, well, one, we're acknowledging that this is anxiety over a future outcome that we have not yet seen. And so I think we always have to assess the validity of the anxiety. Is this likely to, what's likely to occur? What is driven by my own thoughts and ideas, and what is least likely to occur, right? So I think we have to look at those things kind of objectively and not just give in to anxiety at all times, because there's some things that I think are going to happen or that might happen that don't have to happen in that way, which kind of brings me back to the thought process in the very beginning when John was saying, what do we do? Because there are some things that we have the capability to advocate for and do things about that don't necessarily have to result in the outcome that we're anxious about, if that makes sense.
That does make sense.
So for a practical part in regards to an individual who may be undocumented, the
Mm-hmm.
very least that you can possibly do right now is try to get yourself documented. There are definitely nonprofit agencies that will help you with your documentation status. And if you're in the pending status in a lot of these systems, they cannot deport you. So those are very practical things that you can do in regards to anxiety. Beyond that, I don't want to over spiritualize it,
Mm-hmm.
but I also don't want to under spiritualize this point.
Mm-hmm.
The Bible says in Philippians, it says, be anxious over nothing, but by prayer and supplication, present everything to God. And the reality and the peace of God will guard your heart and mind. And so what I think the foundation of anxiety in terms of to ease anxiety, again, without over spiritualizing it, is presenting everything to God. And I think that is the core of what keeps you in your state of security and not being overly anxious or experiencing anxiety. And I'm saying that because I actually just watched a whole sermon on that because I struggle with that, right? I struggle with what is going to happen, what might happen. And the thing that really holds you is that knowledge that you're presenting it to God, and God ultimately is in charge of everything.
Yeah.
Man, I'm happy you said that. Hold on a second, John. Don't let me interrupt you for 1 second.
No,
Pastor Sackett, check your email and jump in. Check your email. And okay, could you put the link in the messenger group? I don't think Pastor Sackett has the link. He's watching, so please just jump in because I think this is a perfect place for you to come in here. This has been the discussion I'm having. So check your email. If it's not, don't have sound or know how to be visible, right? Because I don't think you are I think you are using the messenger. Don't use the messenger. Click on the link. Annika, can you call Pastor Sackett on the messenger, through the messenger app, and just talk him through it, please? Okay, so John, wait, let you go. You were about to say
No, finish your thought.
No, you were about to say something.
No, I might be going in a different direction.
Okay,
so
John, here's what I heard you just say. I don't want to over spiritualize it.
Right.
I don't want to under spiritualize it. Why did you feel the need to say I don't want to over spiritualize it?
Because I think oftentimes within the Christian community, we yield to this idea that everything is to God, which it is, and that we should not, that immobilizes us to do something, meaning it's in God's hands, therefore I can sit back and relax and do nothing. Okay. That's over spiritualizing it. It's kind of getting into a place in which I am absolved from every part of responsibility to do something about it. So it's kind of like, okay, I'm struggling with anxiety or whatever in terms of the clinical diagnosis, and I'm going to trust God is going to help me with my mental health, but I'm not going to therapy or seeing if it's a chemical imbalance in my brain. It's going to therapy and taking your medication and going to God. It is when you over spiritualize it, you don't take care of the physical reality. Or I was watching on this particular Instagram where there's this pastor in Africa who was saying that he was like, we're going to pray that you lose weight. So he's touching the person's belly and he's like, look, fat go away, fat go away, fat go away, right? Like, okay, you can pray.
Can he touch
that
mine?
right. But there, you have to go to the gym. You have to eat right.
Oh, touch won't work.
Look, you can touch your belly all you want to. It's
man.
not going to distend. It's not going to go away. You have to work at it. And so I think that when you over spiritualize it, you're absolving yourself from the responsibility of what you're doing. But when you under spiritualize it, meaning that that God is still not in control. The reality is God is sovereign and God is in charge of everything. And so you have to present those requests and present your anxiety to God while also being called to act and do things that you need to do in order to handle your anxiety.
So then could we just say, instead of saying let's not over spiritualize it, could we agree that the person that is just sitting down, God is going to do this, is not being spiritual at all? Because that's not, the Bible doesn't teach that. So could we agree then that person is just there? Here he is.
Hello.
welcome.
Thank you.
We're happy that you made it home safely, sir.
Oh, I'm glad to be here. Sorry about being late. I had a flat tire.
Yes. And you actually came in perfect. Please meet Pastor Hall. Would have done this earlier. We're old high school roommates. We were talking earlier. We've been friends for over 25 years, so we're old men now. Yes. But you chimed in right in time, right when he said, don't over spiritualize it. That's what you said. I'm here as a watcher, and I was like, oh man, this is what, because what happened, John, is Glenn and I have been going back and forth, what I call struggling with this discussion of spiritualizing and what he the idea of anthropology and theology working hand in hand, which is why I thought he was perfect for this discussion. So Pastor Hall just said we should not over spiritualize it or under spiritualize it, where we recognize that God is in control, but we have a responsibility where we don't under spiritualize, where we say, well, God's not going to do anything about this anyway. So I think this is a perfect place for you to jump in. The conversation is, of course, is about the loss of the election.
Yeah.
For those who are hurting from that loss.
Yes, and we might be hurting in a kind of depressed way, low energy, just sort of down and having a hard time getting ourselves to do something. Or we might be kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum. We might be we've been so busy before the election. We've been so much engaged in conversation and maybe action, maybe even trying to get people to vote, maybe conversations with people we hope to be able to influence. And now that the election's over, what do we do with all that energy? We had it all wound up. So it might be more anxiety than depression. And I heard Kamala say that word anxiety a little while ago while I was trying to get connected. So I like what you said about don't over spiritualize or under spiritualize. Spirituality is powerful. And we know from the majority of people in the world who don't have the material goods that we have, that happiness is not dependent on material goods. It's more dependent on how we live with our spirit and how our spirit engages with the divine and with the possibility and the potential and the purpose that have been created as part of our lives. And that's powerful to help us live above circumstances. And to use it appropriately is very helpful. To use it inappropriately, to forget who we are, doesn't help very much. And I got to go back to creation to just remind myself sometimes, and remind my friends and people I'm working with, that God put us in a body, mind, spirit vehicle for this life. He got down on his hands and knees at the edge of the river and formed Adam out of mud, clay, earth, something. So there's a body. And then he breathed into it the breath of life. And then he opened a relationship with Adam and then Eve. And from that time on, we're a body, mind, spirit vehicle. And so when something like this challenges us, it's a great opportunity to ask, what am I doing physically that would help me? What am I doing mentally? How am I thinking correctly and correcting my not so helpful thoughts? And what am I doing spiritually to make sure that my spirit is where it can help me see the big picture of life?
Right.
So, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to ask, for people who are listening and they're hearing this and they're asking the question, okay, but what does that mean for me? What do I do physically? What do I do spiritually?
I love that. I teach resilience, and on my workbook or playbook, I call it, on the back page, we have a grid, and the grid is it's timeline across the top. What can I do right now within 30 seconds that would make a difference? What can I do sometime today that will make a difference? And what can I do? What's a keystone habit? Something that I can do over and over, and it is greater than the sum of its parts, but it's not fast. And then down the side is physical, mental, spiritual. And so we challenge people, and this fits very well with what we're talking about here, to think about, what can I do in 30 seconds physically? Well, I can sit up straight and breathe deeply instead of slouching. That may be enough to shift our energy. If I'm standing and slouching and leaning against a wall, I can stand up on my own 2 feet, as my mother used to say. That meant a lot to her, by the way. She was a polio survivor, and she had a weak leg. So when she said, stand on your own 2 feet, that meant a lot. What can I do mentally? How can I shift my thought pattern in 30 seconds that would immediately make a difference? It might be saying, what am I making too big a deal about here? Or if you know the 4 agreements, one of those agreements is take nothing personally. And in this election season and post-election season,
that's a big
within 30 seconds, I can go like, what am I making too personal here? Can I tone that down? Can I ratchet that down a bit? And realize it's happening out there, but it's not mine. I can watch it go by. And then spiritually, what can I do? Well, of course, I can send up a prayer. It can be a silent prayer. It can be a vocal prayer. It can be looking up to the sky if I'm outdoors or through a window, or even at a plant. If I'm in my house and can't see much outdoors, if I'm in an apartment or something, if I have a plant, I can look at that, and that's a piece of God's creation. Could look in the mirror, actually.
That'd be a good one.
But I may not be happy with myself at the moment. So the plant or the pet, something that's alive. So that's the 30 seconds. Then
before you go on to the next one, John.
Sure.
Let me go to John for a second. Glenn said something that I want for you to help me walk through. He said, for the 30-second, the mental, I can look at this and say, hey, this is not mine. Remember that. But John, that's not how Black America feels about this. They feel that this is theirs. This is. And when I say Black America, I'm generalizing, but we feel this is ours. Talk to me a little bit about walk with me there.
So if I'm hearing you correctly,
and if I'm wrong, let me know. That's not the feeling.
If I hear you correctly, what I'm hearing you say is that the general tenor within the African American community is that that this is a rebuke on progress, right?
Yes, absolutely.
This is and the hope, if I can hear you, is the hope that we felt originally in 2008 when
collective
Obama,
right,
the collective hope, the collective, like we're finally getting to a place of where we can move past where we have to justify our existence, that now that progress that we felt and has been taken back. Because even in terms of Joe Biden, we were like, okay, we're still struggling with Joe, but Joe ain't Donald, right? But in bringing back Donald with all the things that has come to, even in terms of people watching January 6th happen live on television, and still acting like it was something different. I think we feel as though not only was 2008 not real for us, but we actually are hurt by it and are wounded to the degree of where we're like, I can't feel safe being in my own skin, in my own existence. And so, if I'm hearing you correct, so am I?
You are hearing me. You are hearing me correctly. Here is my question, and come on, everybody can jump in here. My question is now: is that rational? Is it? I'm not asking, am I feeling those things? And if full disclosure, I feel those things. Is it what I'm trying to do? Is I'm trying to reconcile the idea of this is not mine. This is the and I said this in my sermon on Sabbath. This is the Republican Party and Democrat Party, which in my pay scale, that neither of them care about me. All they want is my vote
and my money.
But so is it rational for me to say, I want to be careful. I think
if I hear you, I think there's degrees of rationality, right?
Okay.
It is rational to a certain extent to feel how I feel. However, to go to the point of where I feel like that progress has not been made and my voice is back when it was in the 1800s or during Jim Crow, it's not to that level. I have a voice. And I think within the African American community, particularly within the younger part of the African American community, we're seeing the cycle continue where there's apathy that's happening, where it's like, I'm not going to vote because my voice doesn't matter, right? I'm not going to vote out. I'm not going to vote on local elections. And the one particularly advertisement that occurred within the state of Pennsylvania, I don't know if it's over any other states, but they were very pushing up to the election. Your voice is private. I mean, your vote is private, but whether we know that you're going to vote is going to be public. In other words, it's like, hey, now we're shifting the conversation to now everybody's going to know if you vote or not. And what tends to happen within the African American community is that we tend to vote every 4 years for presidential elections and not for the local elections. And so there are people who are literally watching our vote, knowing how we're voting. And while we're tending to vote every 4 years for a president. There's local elections that are happening, judges that are being put in place, state representatives and state senators that are being put in place that our voice is not being heard. And so we're contributing to that apathy, right? Yes, there's a certain period of thing where we feel powerless, but there's some parts of our power that we actually can happen. Like if
we abdicate
and we abdicate, we give away our power by not voting in collective parties. People get money. Governments give money in areas that vote the most. They care about people's voices that speak the most and who vote the most. If they know in the African American community that we do not vote, they're not going to advocate or pander to our vote. The reason why this particular election started pandering a little bit more to the Latino vote, a little bit more, not that much, was because there was a big segment of the Latino community, particularly the Cuban community, that votes very heavily Republican. And so they started pouring into various rhetoric that fed into that people group that now, like, they're getting more attention. And so in the African American community, we have to take some ownership that we're going to have to vote, and not vote, just vote. We're going to have to get back to the generation. And this is where the Black church is critical, is that we have to get people to stop getting out of this apathetic mindset that our voice doesn't matter. And we have to be advocates of change and advocates of voting and making sure our voices are heard. We're only 13, maybe 16% of the population, but we have a significant voice, so much so that the entire Democratic Party depends upon the vote of the African American community. And if we do not vote, then they lose elections. And I'm not saying
you
that's
have
minimizing.
a great organized community,
right?
And it's I'm not going to use the word easy, but there's a mechanism in place to be activated where people can make a shift from feeling helpless to feeling useful. So there's that aspect of connecting with our purpose. And if we're depressed, one of the greatest things to overcome depression is the recovery of purpose. Knowing that what we have, that some purpose for which we exist, that we can engage in, means something to someone.
Yes.
All right, so let's hold on, pause.
I like that.
And I know, and I can do, and okay, hashtag. One of the great, help me say this again. I hope you can get it back. You said it just now. One of the greatest help to depression is rediscovering of purpose.
Yeah.
And can put that in a nice hashtag for me. All right. So in the 30 seconds that I have, because I don't want for us to lose that. In the 30 seconds that I have to say, hey, this is not mine. John walked us through. It is ours, but let's be honest, we don't vote. So a part of the rationality versus irrationality, we don't do everything we can. So let's not commit suicide right now about this 4-year election when there's stuff that we can affect more, like local judges and school superintendents, governors, and PTAs and stuff. So before we get completely out of whack in that 30 seconds, maybe I can ask myself, did I do my part in everything else? Would that be a fair ask for the mental, Glenn?
Yes. Yeah, it would. And then I can push that into that next time frame of what can I do today or what can I do this week?
Right.
Because I can't necessarily do something in 30 seconds, but I can at least change the thought and start leaning into something that will take me somewhere.
Yes.
Right.
And what I hear, John, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And I want to add this. So for me, I have a whole lot of Facebook friends, and every one of my Facebook friends voted.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to associate with myself with people who think how I think and
Mm-hmm.
who practice how I practice. That does not change my community. That
Right.
just reinforces my worldview that everybody thinks how I think and votes how I vote. What I need to do in terms of my actions is now I need to start having connections with individuals who don't vote and begin to have conversations so that they can understand the power of their voice and their vote. And
Mm-hmm.
so, what I think part of the action part is not just do it yourself. The change is you got to change your circle of influence so that you can
Mm-hmm.
have greater levels of influence so that you can change.
So would that be the next day thing, Glenn?
Yeah, it would. And I think you just did that by inviting me here. You enlarged your circle. We haven't met before except on Facebook, and so you've created a larger circle here. I have a whole lot of people in my friendship group from where I grew up in all the schools that I went to and all the 10 states I've lived in that a lot of those people don't vote like I vote. They don't think like I think. And we have some very lively conversations, which interestingly enough are shifting already. There are some people who other people say, Glenn, why do you have those people on your page? And I say, because I have a broad community and I want to hear things that are different from what I think because it challenges me. But I'm finding that some of those people, even who are the most radically opposed to most of what I believe in, we're having some discovery that we are having similar feelings and we have similar hopes for the future. That's a really interesting thing. And there's a little book, tiny book called Conversation by Theodore Zeldin, one of the 100 best thinkers in America a few years back. And he said, real conversation is not common. It only happens when everyone in the room is willing to be changed, willing to learn, willing to emerge a slightly different person than how I came into the room.
I love that.
Now, that requires some emotional safety to be able to do that. And the book Crucial Conversations teaches us a lot about that, about how we not only should be looking at the monitoring and moderating the content of the conversation, but we should be watching people's eyes and their body language and see when somebody starts feeling unsafe, because when they do, the progress stops.
They shut down.
Yeah. So maintaining that safety is really important. And I think you challenged me on something at the beginning that I think is really important. We talked in another Facebook group about the problem of spiritual bypassing, where we sometimes take Bible texts out of context and we try to dump them on somebody who's hurting as if it's going to make it better, and it's not in the right context, so it doesn't help. What you were challenging me about, I would say, is emotional bypassing.
Right.
So when I said, it's not mine, and you said, well, in the Black community, we feel like it is ours. I think the fair question there is, what's mine and what's not mine?
Right.
And different ones of us from our different kinds of connections feel threatened or unsafe or scared in different ways for different reasons. And I'll give you an example of one of the ones where it's really important to look at. Project 2025. You know, I read that thing and it's like, whoa. And now we know that the authors of that are in the administration. But in our polarized conversation before the election, we were really making evil out of all that. And we can continue to think that way, or we can say, am I going to really own all of that? Am I going to say am I going to let all those fears sit on my shoulders right now? Or can I say, well, those aren't mine until I begin to see those actions taking place. I can set them down.
And I, go ahead.
Glenn, you what you're saying in this moment kind of mimics a thought process I was having earlier, where when we get stuck in those emotional states, no matter what they are, what we define them as, if we stay too much in the extreme of them, they can become crippling. So if I am overly anxious about the future and what's going to happen, and I allow myself to stay in that overly anxious state, then that may end up being more harm than good, because then I become crippled by that anxiety. So I create this whole self-fulfilling prophecy about what's going to happen because I stayed within
and still self-destruct even though it didn't happen. John, I want to bring in something you posted the other day that I think would be very instructive here. I'm gonna paraphrase you. You said the people that, well, let me bring it up on your page.
Oh goodness, what I
what I say?
No, I thought that was actually really
you put it out there, so I figure you're pretty much okay with it.
I think this was actually very, 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 very powerful. You said
it's coming.
No, where is it? Okay, you said if scripture is correct that the root of all evil that exists in the world is greed, then we must also assume that greed motivates injustice. Who is profiting off of your pain? Fixating on the fruit will never eradicate the root. And what I grabbed from that was, who is profiting off of your pain? Fixating on the fruit will never eradicate the root. Glenn just said, what is mine and what is not? Let's be honest for a second. Everyone that's upset about the loss of this election is not upset for the same reason.
Right.
Elon Musk gained $15 billion, they said. Somebody lost that $15 billion and they mad. Somebody's not going to have access to the White House and they're mad. You understand what I'm saying? There are other issues at hand. So who is profiting off of a mass anger? Who is profiting? Who is gaining from not saying, hey, scripture says, be anxious about nothing. And how do we deal with that, John?
So I want to give context to that particular post. So several things. I think we have to understand the undercurrent that is working within American society. The reality is, whether it's the Democrats or the Republicans, everybody benefits from something, right? And I think if you lean too heavy towards one, you're going to miss and demonize the other. And what I saw today specifically, for individuals who are saying, okay, the Republicans are back in power, Donald Trump is back in power. Some individuals saying, oh, I get my stimulus check back. Yes, I'm going to get cut taxes. But today what I notice is that part of that is going to be a cut in terms of Medicare and what they call the entitlement benefits, TANF benefits in terms of food stamps and other things that poor people are being that need and require for their daily life. In order for rich people to get more money and get more money in their pocket, that poor individuals are going to have to give up certain levels. So the reality is people don't care, unfortunately, for the poor and for those who are suffering or the elderly. And so in order to position themselves in positions of power, they're okay with the poor suffering. And I think the hardship of it is that's evil. Like if you really think about it, like slavery wasn't just somebody's wisdom of how to build America. It was evil. It's evil to separate parents from children, husbands from wives. That's evil. And when we think about it, like there's a whole spiritual realm and world that is guiding this evil. And they're guiding people through the desires of their heart, which is greed. And so when we think about it from the spiritual context, what I believe, because I can't separate the spiritual groundiness of who I am as an individual, right? I can't separate that. And so when I look at it and I look at throughout scripture, if you go to the book of Acts, remember the little girl who was following after Paul and was just saying, hey, you know, not Paul, Peter was probably was Paul. I don't know. But either way, the young lady who was following after him was like, this guy, he's righteous, he's a man of God or whatever, and he kept following, kept saying it, and then she was healed. And then at that, it was who was it?
Go ahead. I was going back and forth with my mind too.
And then at the end of the day, they were thrown in prison because they healed this young lady who was demon possessed, and they became upset. Right? They weren't upset the fact that she was demon possessed. They were upset the fact that she got healed and it affected their income.
Yeah.
So the reality is when we're talking about like what people get upset at, and when we're talking about the evil that exists in the world, like greed just is the undercurrent of that. What makes me angry, we're talking about this election, I don't care about how the world votes. The world can vote for whoever the world wants. What I'm upset at, and I say pissed, what I'm pissed at and what I'm upset at is how the church is voting.
Yeah.
How the church, how my church, the Adventist church, is voting. How Danny Shelton, who was unapologetic, the owner of saying that he is a Christian nationalist. That upsets me. Yeah. How certain individuals, they're ignoring the demonic activity and the evil of it and saying that it's something that is spiritual. That upsets me because not only does that take down the name of Christianity, but that literally says something different about the God that I serve.
Exactly.
Right? I should have a different ethic. I should have a different thought process. I should not be justifying a person's actions because they say that they're a Christian. No, I should be angry at that somebody is using my religion as a something to get themselves ahead. That's what I should be upset at. And
but let me ask a question.
Go ahead.
Let me ask the question, and our time is clearly gone. Bill Clinton, we remember his presidency with infidelity, with Monica Lewinsky, all of that. But that was still our champion. I mean, if Bill could run today, wouldn't we vote for Bill today?
No,
we wouldn't.
I don't know about
that. Y'all are having revisionist thoughts now. No.
I vote for Hillary first because she was a champion of religious liberty.
Who?
Hillary.
Yeah, right. No. I'm talking about Bill Clinton. Y'all don't.
No, I don't know.
Okay, John Hall. Bill Clinton was the first Black president. Okay, before there was Obama. No.
So we used to joke we used to joke in the African American community because he was the first Black president. But I think
we weren't joking, John.
Yeah, we were. But I think
I sent him a plaque when I was in college saying President of the Millennium.
So we can go in depth with this. I think as we mature, like we said, we've known each other for over 25 years, right? Our thinking and our concepts of the world evolve. When we talk about the 1990s and what existed within the 1990s and his contribution. I think that he was a successful president, but there were a lot of pitfalls that he did and that things that he allowed that kind of also set the United States backwards in terms of the economy. And we can definitely have conversations about this. But I think if I'm going to the heart of what you're saying was that his actions did not always align with what he said in terms of his Christian values and beliefs.
None of us, their moral compass is not, I don't know that we're upset about the morality of our leaders. I think we're upset about the politics of them, but not the morality, because there's plenty of that to go around, right?
I think I'm upset at both, right? Yeah. I'm upset at the morality, the immorality, I would say, the brandishness of how an individual lives their life. There's several different things, particularly in Donald J. Trump, where he is historically, like his morality, he is compromised. So I'm upset at that, but I'm also upset at the politics of it all.
Right, the politics.
I think nobody is the standard of perfection, and I'm not looking to any political leader or religious leader to be the standard of perfection. But what I absolutely look at for an individual is, how do you respond when you get caught?
That's good. That was good.
Like, do you have the posture of humility, or do you have the posture of arrogance? And I think we're moving into an era. He lied, but it is what it is. You can't compare. I mean, they're both the same, the one and the same to me. But the reality is, what I feel as though is that that the era in which we're in right now, you see there's a spirit that accompanies Donald J. Trump. They're like, I'm literally, people walk. You've never seen Clinton flags flying. Clinton 2024, Clinton 1998. You've never seen Obama. There's an entire spirit.
It is a cult. There is a cult movement, and it is a cult movement. We're out of time. Yeah, we are. We're out of 9:07. We're out of time. Glenn, would you do me a favor and share with us the long-term processing before we go, so that way at least Annika can has that as a part of her clip.
The long term is doing things that matter more the more we do them. It is building habits, not just taking relief in the moment, but building habits that build our lives in the direction we want them to go. So, like, somebody asked me a few months ago, if you had to give up all of your spiritual practices but one, which one would you keep? And it didn't take me very long at all to say I would keep my morning walk. Because my morning walk actually creates opportunity for the other things to fit into it, like prayer, walking prayer, like meditation, like hearing the birds, even the sounds of the wind in the trees. It gives me time to sing my devotional song, which links me with my life purpose. And by this daily walk, having not just an occasional walk, but a daily walk, which starts my day with my Creator, and in which I volunteer to be in partnership with the divine for divine purposes, not just what I want to have happen today, but what does God want me to do? What situation is God going to throw me into that I never expected? Those are the great opportunities. So a walk sounds like a physical thing, but it can be a physical, mental, and spiritual thing.
Oh, yeah, that's beautiful.
So anything like that we build into our daily practice that connects all the parts of our life, physical, mental, and spiritual, and activates, that's that keystone habit, the long-term thing that actually does more than you think it should.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. John, you said earlier, and Glenn, I just want for you to say early morning walk one more time. Just say those words. Don't worry about it. Just say early morning walk.
Early morning walk.
Praise the Lord. All right, John.
Shady over here, boy.
That's a family affair, Glenn. Don't get in it. John, you said, let's not over spiritualize. Let's not under spiritualize. Take 30 seconds to remind us of how important it is to remember that God sees, at the very least, he's all powerful and he sees everything. Can you just take 30 seconds to remind us of that? Kamala, you get the last word.
I think the beauty of having a foundation and a grounding in God is that you acknowledge that you're not in control of your destiny, you're not in control of your present, and you're not in control of your past. You may have made mistakes, you may have fallen, but the Bible is very clear that God is able to restore the years that the locusts have eaten. In other words, that God is still in control. So even though you don't feel in control, God is still in control. So you may feel scared, you may feel anxious, you may feel angry. Give all those energies, give all those things to God, because God is able to manage all those things. God can even handle you saying that you hate him. And God is bigger than that. He does not get passive aggressive or emotionally hard, emotionally hard.
He's not going to do tit for tat.
He's not going to do tit for tat. And so God is greater than that. So even in the midst of all this anxiety of what's going to happen, God is still the same. God is still the same that profited the children of Israel in the land of Canaan. He was also the same God that had them in Egypt. So God is the same God, and he's going to take you throughout whatever you need. So don't be anxious, be balanced.
Ooh, I like that.
Ooh, wait, don't be anxious, be balanced. Hashtag. That was good.
That was good. So, guys, listen, if you have been watching with us all along, or if you're watching 2 days from now, 2 weeks from now, 3 years from now, I hope that what we have been able to do tonight is to demonstrate that we can have really nuanced, complex emotions about situations in our lives, but we can come to the table and figure out ways to move forward and benefit not just ourselves, but each other.
That would be true. That sounded good, but that would be true if we had a Trump supporter on here.
It's not too late. We can have another show.
I don't think John's ready for that. No,
well, going back to what we said earlier, if we can demonstrate the ability to have safe spaces where we can have conversations about hard stuff, we will be well on our way.
And I think Glenn said, don't just have your own echo chamber.
Absolutely.
Be willing to hear and listen. Yeah. Go ahead, Glenn.
Can I have 15 seconds for
yes,
a word
take
picture?
20.
Yes.
When I was 8 years old, we were walking home in the country during a lightning storm because our road was too messy to drive. We're walking across a pasture and lightning is flashing all around us. It's raining, it's thundering. My hand, my hand is in my dad's hand.
Yes.
I felt safe.
Yes.
Because so put your hand in the hand of the man to still the water.
Yes.
You gotta say.
We need, during this time of alienation, to put our hand in the hand of somebody, and sometimes that's God above, and sometimes it's each other.
Yes, I love that.
Listen, if it's Monday night, you're live
with KW and J.
Sometimes J. Peace.